In theory, the Roborock Q8 Max is designed as a more budget-friendly version of the Roborock S8. It comes with simplified navigation, wet mopping without a vibrating mop head, and slightly lower suction power. But in reality, the Q8 Max falls behind only in navigation, while it actually surpasses the S8 in most other aspects. How did that happen? And why, for heaven's sake? I'll explain everything in this review and back up my claims with real test results. The model I have here is the Plus version, which includes a self-emptying dock station. First, let's take a look at what's inside the box. The vacuum cleaner itself, black, partially glossy, and sleek. The top part of the self-cleaning station, identical to the Roborock S8 Plus, and the matching lower part. The power cord, just a standard wrap with no strap. A spare dust bag, with another one already loaded into the station. A mop with a microfiber pad attached, and buttons on the back. I'll explain what those buttons are for a bit later. The Q8 Max Plus specs are displayed on the screen. Interestingly, this time, they listed the suction power a bit lower. Looks like Roborock's marketing team got a little embarrassed after our review of the Roborock S8. Other than that, nothing drastically new. The design remains familiar, the pill-shaped body with a LiDAR tower and a rectangular window. Inside that window is a front-facing sensor of unknown origin. The bumper is labeled Reactive Tech, but the manufacturer's website only gives vague descriptions. On the side, there's a TOF sensor to help it travel along walls without veering off course. The dustbin is now inserted from the back, but the structure is the same as the Q7 Max. It has a separate waste bin and a water tank. There's also an air intake hatch for auto-emptying, a single HEPA filter which you can wash under running water. The toolset is familiar. A side brush with soft tips, all-terrain wheels. Take a look at that tread. And of course, a pair of rollers mounted on 2 suspensions. Hair tends to wrap around the ends, but they are removable for easy cleaning. But there are a couple of innovations too. Innovation number 1. The glossy lid with a matte edge where you're most likely to touch it, but honestly, it doesn't help much. I just took the vacuum out of the box and it already looks like I showed it to all my neighbors, their guests, and even their pets. Innovation number 2. The redesigned mop. The cloth is now as thin as the one found on Dream vacuums. But on the backside, there are now spring-loaded buttons that press the mop against the floor. This system has proven to work well on the 360 S10 vacuum. The docking station is the same one we're familiar with from the S8 model. Nothing new here. Long ramps with wheel slots, a large docking port, and debris gets emptied backward through the same suction inlets. The dust bag is neatly tucked under a lid. Overall, there are no complaints about the design. As always, it looks stylish and modern. I use the Roborock app for control. The setup is simple. Connect through the region, scan the QR code, and follow the prompts. It takes about 2 minutes. Once the map is built, you get access to a wide range of settings for each room, including scheduling for the entire week, different types of zoning, and many other features. The full list is on the screen. Feel free to pause and check it out, but I'll only cover the most important ones. On the map, you can specify the direction of the floor seams to improve mopping efficiency. Unlike the Roborock S8, the Q8 Max Plus doesn't recognize objects, it marks them as cones instead. Rugs don't show up on the map automatically, but you can manually set their location in a special editor. You can also place furniture icons on the map. For wet cleaning, it uses a quick movement algorithm. It moves from wall to wall, ignoring room boundaries, and you can adjust the water level with a slider. Usually, this feature is pretty pointless, since most robot vacuums don't wet the cloth well enough, even at maximum settings. But I can already say the Q8 Max Plus really soaks that pad, so in this case, that slider actually matters. The app is fully localized, including the voice assistant. Now let's see how the vacuum handles problem areas. It doesn't always detect socks on the first try. In the initial test, it neatly avoided them, but during the second test, it dragged them across the whole room. It only recognizes cables if they are coiled up. During the first encounter, it dragged a phone charger across the floor, but figured it out eventually. It consistently avoids power strips, but completely ignores scales. For the robot, they just don't exist, just like small surprises. If you have a cat, you might want to keep some nitroglycerin nearby. However, when it comes to big surprises, it handles them with no problems, even in complete darkness. Overall, the 3D sensor works effectively and significantly reduces the chances of getting stuck. It's still far from perfect, but better than nothing. I also want to note the robot's punctuality. Even if it starts dragging something, it at least tries to put it back where it found it, like with the power strip. The robot navigates the room quite well. First, it moves around the perimeter, then follows a zigzag pattern. It recognizes curtains using LiDAR and carefully avoids them. Along the walls, it travels in a straight line, measuring the distance to the baseboard. It sweeps around boxes and table legs neatly, leaving no spots untouched. It climbs onto carpets effortlessly, even black ones. Surface sensors work correctly. It detects the clothes drying rack, slows down before it, but still drives over its tubular legs. Fortunately, its clearance is good enough to handle 0.8-inch thresholds, even with the mop installed. Overall, there are no complaints about the navigation. It cleaned room by room according to the set sequence. It navigated every corner and filled the dustbin completely. Dust, cotton swabs, fragments of a Christmas tree, even a little scary to look inside. On maximum power, the Q8 Max Plus worked for 96 minutes and cleaned 1,130 square feet. When the battery level dropped to 20%, it returned to the dock to recharge, went up to 80%, and resumed cleaning exactly where it left off. Despite its solid 5,500 Pascal suction power, the noise level is relatively low. At minimum settings, it runs at 57 decibels. On maximum power, it reaches 69 decibels. So how does it perform in terms of suction power? Recently, I tested the Roborock S8 Plus, which has a similar construction, and claims 6,000 PA of suction on the box. It performed quite poorly, barely managing to clean a 0.08-inch gap. The Q8 Max Plus, on the other hand, did a better job. It confidently cleaned the 0.08-inch gap and even managed to handle a 0.16-inch gap at one point. Of course, it's still not on the level of the Roborock S7 or even the Dream F9, but at least it can now be compared to the Dream D10S Plus. Despite the slot test, I still have high expectations for its dry cleaning capabilities because even with lower power, those two rollers can clean efficiently. We know this well from Roomba vacuums. Let's see what the Q8 Max Plus can do. During testing, the robot does two passes, one in a zigzag pattern and another along the walls. For the first test, I spread cereal, grains, filler, and pet hair on the laminate. The Q8 Max Plus handled this debris with no problem. Most of the work was done during the first pass, and the second one cleaned up the problem areas, showing a 98% success rate. The only remnants left were in the corners. The blind spot is just 1.2 inches. For comparison, the Dream D9 Max with its original side brush had a blind spot of 1.6 inches and left debris along the walls. Ideally, there should have been some trouble with sand collection because the suction power isn't the highest, but it turned out to be enough. Check out that little sand dune. This vacuum managed to pick it up on the very first pass. The Q8 Max Plus cleaned the main area perfectly and did a good job along the walls. Roborock S8 had trouble with thin rugs, but the Q8 Max handles this surface easily. It sweeps cleanly along the walls, leaving only minor traces near the corners. The center of the test stand ended up spotlessly clean, with only a few tiny specks left on the periphery. The final result? 98% cleanliness, just like on the laminate. Even the medium pile carpet was cleaned thoroughly. Of course, there were a few more crumbs left in the corners along the walls. Some of the tiny debris sank into the carpet fibers, making it hard for the vacuum to pull it out. But overall, the surface was cleaned quite well. Pet hair, crumbs, grains, and filler all ended up in the dustbin. Overall, the Roborock Q8 Max Plus outperformed the S8 and showed results comparable to the 7 Series vacuums. Whether the increase in efficiency is due to the new dustbin placement, a new motor, or some other factor, I suggest we discuss it in the comments. One important note, after the test, the rollers remained clean. Hair only wound around the ends, which can be cleaned off in about 3.5 seconds. In terms of maintenance, this kind of cleaning block is far more convenient than the traditional bristle and flap turbo brush. Now, let's take a look at how well the copied 360 mop with press buttons works. I can say the system is effective, but not right away. It takes the vacuum about a minute and a half to soak the cloth, and only then does it begin mopping. For coffee stains, it took 2 passes and another 2 to clean along the walls. About 2 inches still remained dirty, but that's actually a good result. For most vacuums, it's around 2.8 inches. You can see the quality of cleaning in this photo. You can clearly spot the difference between the cleaned and untouched areas. Also notice that the microfiber pad is fully stained across its surface, which means it is making full contact with the floor. That's the main benefit of the press button system. The wet mopping test was a success. The main area was thoroughly cleaned in 2 passes. However, the areas along the edges needed one more run. After the first round, 3.5 inches remained uncleaned. Even after repotting a plant, the Q8 Max didn't smash its bumper into the dirt. On the contrary, it picked up the mess onto the microfiber pad, and for a static mop, it did a surprisingly good job cleaning the center of the stand. The microfiber got completely covered in dirt. I rinsed it out in the sink and started the cleaning cycle again. As you can see, on the second try, the vacuum polished the stand to a shine. Streaks were only left in a few spots along the walls. In fact, the Q8 Max with its static cloth wipes, just as well as the Roborock S8 with its vibrating mop. Part of that is thanks to the pressure it applies to the floor, and part of it is due to the generous amount of water it dispenses. At level 30, its 0.92-gallon tank is enough for 270 square feet. That means it uses 0.5 ounces of water per square meter. That's 5 times more than the Roborock S8 and most other vacuum cleaners. This kind of efficiency definitely deserves a like. Go ahead and drop one under this video. I'll make sure to pass it along to the guys at Roborock. Now it's time to test the self-emptying feature. As usual, I prepared a mix of different types of debris, ranging from cereal to filler. The self-emptying process is standard and takes about 30 seconds. The noise level during this process reaches 79 decibels. The base station completely clears out the flakes except for 3 tiny bits stuck to the back wall. It handles sunflower seeds perfectly. Only a single seed remained in the container. It empties out grains with a solid A-. Just a small handful was left behind. Sand wasn't perfect. 16% of it stayed behind in the container. A few pieces of filler also got stuck to the back wall of the bin. To test it further, I filled the container with pet hair, as if an imaginary dog had shed all over. Pet owners can rest easy. Hair is ejected easily and cleanly. In the end, the quality of self-emptying is noticeably better than the S8 Plus. For everyday use, it's more than enough. Let's wrap it up. The Roborock Q8 Max Plus boasts an unusual yet appealing design. The build quality and materials are top-notch as always. The app is packed with features for room-by-room cleaning. Despite its official specs, the Q8 Max Plus turned out to be more powerful than the Roborock S8. It showed impressive results on various surfaces and came very close to the legendary Q7 Max. It wipes floors exceptionally well. Among robots with static mops, it's only outdone by the Hobot Legi D7. There are no complaints about waste disposal. The base station works flawlessly. The main drawback is the front sensor, which often makes mistakes. At a critical moment, it can fail, and with that distinct sound, send your furry friend on a trip out the window. Or it might end up munching on a sock, so you shouldn't rely on it entirely. And that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this review. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments, like the video if it helped, and subscribe for more content. See you in the next review.